You are watching Morning Musings with Reinhard von Hennigs, chairman and founder of Bridge House Law in Charlotte, North Carolina.
How can we use Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics in light of the growth of AI? Hello, this is Reinhard von Hennigs. But let's start. What are the Asimov 3 laws of robotics? They are a set of rules that govern the behavior of robots in, yes, science fiction stories. These laws, however, have become iconic in the field of robotics and have been a profound impact on the development of real-life robots. Let's take a closer look into each of those 3 laws, and more important, how can these laws be used in real life? Could they be used as somehow an ethical standard regarding AI usage in the future? What is it? The first law: a robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. That's pretty straightforward. A robot cannot harm a human being. However, it also raises some interesting questions. For example, what is the definition of harm? How bad is harm? Does emotional harm count? How about harm of a property? How about harm of the environment? Asimov himself acknowledged that the first set of laws is not absolute, and there are situations in which a robot may need to choose the lesser of 2 evils. Remember, and I did a morning musing about that, about the railroad and the derailed railroad, and how should this be done. So what's the second law? The second law is that a robot must obey orders given by human beings, except where such orders would be in conflict to the first law. The second law is therefore all about obedience. A robot must do what humans tell the robot to do, as long as the law is clear and does not conflict with the first law. It raises some interesting questions. For example, what if a human tells a robot to harm another human? Or what if a human tells a robot to do something which will harm the environment? Again, Asimov acknowledged that the second law is not absolute again, and that there are situations where the robot may need to disobey a human command in order to prevent harm. Let's talk about the third law. The robot must protect its own existence as long as the protection does not conflict with the first and the second law. So the third law is all about self-preservation. A robot must protect itself. A robot must make sure that the first 2 laws are followed. This raises questions again. For example, does the robot self-preservation system requires a harm to a human being? What is the self-preservation mode in relation to a disobedience of a human command? Again, Asimov acknowledged that even the third law is not absolute, and that there are situations in which a robot may need to sacrifice itself in order to prevent harm. So, can it be used in real life? And if so, how? Implementing Asimov's 3 laws of robotics in contracts, for example, requires a careful consideration of legal implications. What concepts could be used? Let's talk about some key legal concepts, how it could be done. Number 1, the laws could be incorporated by reference. The 3 laws of robotics could be used by reference by contracts with regard to the design, the manufacture, or the operation of robots. This means if it's incorporated like that, it would be enforceable and it would be a legal binding part of a contract. It could be done in an indemnification scenario. Parties could agree to indemnify each other for any harm caused by their robots in accordance with the 3 laws of robotics. This means if the robot by itself causes harm to a human being, the party responsible for the robot would be required to compensate the victim for any losses or any damages suffered. Number 3, let's talk about the duty of care. Parties could enter into a contract where the duty of care of the robot needs to comply with the 3 laws of robotics. This would require the user to take a reasonable step to ensure that the robots do not cause harm to humans or to the environment. Number 4, let's talk about liability limitations. Parties of the contract could also limit their liability for any harm caused by the robots in accordance with the 3 laws of robotics. This means a party could not be held liable if their robots went beyond the certain defined purpose of the contract, if the robot did something which was not initially intended to do. So the limitation would then apply if there is a rogue robot. And lastly, let's terminate it. Put in a termination clause. Parties could allow for termination if the other party violates the 3 rules of robotics. This would provide an incentive for all parties to perform and to make sure that there is no harm for humans or the environment. By incorporating those legal concepts into the design, the manufacture, parties may help to ensure that no harm to humans or the environment is done. It would also be a good point to educate the public about safety and lastly, reduce legal disputes. Let's talk about the ethics. As AI becomes more and more advanced, it raises ethical questions, how it should be used and what the society will be with AI. The 3 laws provide a good starting point of thinking about the ethical implications. Regulation is a topic. If AI becomes more and more prevalent, it is likely to face some regulation. The 3 laws could be a basis for regulation to create a framework for the safety and ethical use of AI. Overall, the Asimov 3 laws of robotics provide a useful framework for thinking about ethics of robot behavior, of their development, and for the future and maybe even current use of AI. While the laws are not absolute, there are situations in which they need to be adapted for a specific context, for a specific situation, or for a specific contractual relation between the parties. They are a good starting point to ensure safety and well-being of human beings. If it's ensured that AI is developed in a way which is safe and ethical, it will eventually benefit society. And let's face it, some of this is a pretty good source for some entertaining science fiction stories.
Thank you for joining us today. If you would like more information about British House Law, please visit our website at bridgehouse.law. Before you go, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more up-to-date content. British House Law, business-minded, client-focused.
Whether you're a private citizen, an international business leader, or simply someone eager to stay on top of the latest news, this book is a great way to get caught up on the most recent developments in the worlds of international business, tax, politics, and social affairs. Go to morningmusings.com and order your copy today.